Today we are considering the issue of gender and identity. Although the book I'm going to talk about was published some years back, it's still very relevant because of the prominence of that subject. This is Gender and Identity in the works of Osonye Onwueme, a Nigerian writer. So this is the book. Reading Onwueme's works within the context of gender and black literary studies, Iniobong Uko provides a critical analysis that closely identifies with this subject, facilitating an in-depth knowledge and understanding of the plays and novel scrutinized. The book is divided into 7 chapters and explores the subjects which dominate Onwueme's works: gender relations, female identity, and empowerment in Africa and the diaspora. These are followed by a long interview with the playwright and a detailed chronology of her life so far. In her last play, What Mama Said, 2003, a follow-up to Then She Said It, regrettably only summarily introduced and omitted in the bibliography. Uko's book briefly reviews the various theories propounded to define and study gender relations in Nigeria, revealing both the huge difference between Western and African feminism and Onwueme's own abhorrence for labels and classifications. The playwright's denunciation of the gulf separating middle-class urban women from their rural counterparts acknowledges a breakdown in communication, as both envisage gender relationships in very different terms. That Onwueme had the privilege of living through the experience of several of her characters' lives, including a rural childhood, goes some way to explain why the oral tradition naturally inhabits our world, and also her success in portraying rural women, which is quite different to that which dominates a lot of writing by men on the subject. The in-depth analysis of the plays combines their relevance to Nigerian society with the author's critical evaluation of relationships, such as our challenging of the status quo and a confrontation with the daily realities of wife and motherhood. This reveals Onwueme's commitment as an artist to the task of chronicling social context, while at the same time suggesting what is useful for the people, covering such domestic issues as parenting, female education and marriage, polygamy, the preference for male children, along with the political ones like women's associations, female muteness, class consciousness, and avarice. Our 1986 plays in particular are overt statements on Nigerian society at the time and a condemnation of a system that, according to her, perpetuates class consciousness and oppression. The book suggests her play Wazobia as a summation of Onwueme's message and presents it as a metaphor for unity, love, and hope for a people who symbolize Nigeria, while also addressing problems of domination and subservience, particularly the religious, ethnical, and linguistic fragmentation of southern Nigeria. Onwueme's global concerns are expressed in Chapter 5, which focuses on African American women and the diaspora. This chapter revisits the Back to Africa motive, addressing the question of dual personality and double heritage for African Americans, and insists on Onwueme's message that Africa and Africans in the diaspora need to understand themselves before any form of unity can be achieved. This is an idea that Onwueme explored through the technique of blender characterization and the twinning of characters from America and Africa. Onwueme's play, such as A Hand Too Soon, 83, The Desert Encroaches, 85, The Broken, 86, and Shakara Dance Hall Queen, 2000, are shown as projecting this vision, exploring the issues of slavery and racism, and representing an update on the state of racial relationships in the US. Chapter 7 starts with an overview of African oral literature and places Onwueme's novel within a folktale genre, emphasizing the author's storytelling skills and renewing the traditional theme that she experimented with some 20 years before. The supremacy of storytelling is highlighted by the subtitle of the novel, Why the Elephant Has No Butt. Stories Mother Turkey told her children, adapted from the African Igbo original. The author considers this novel as an interesting milestone in the development of Onwueme as a writer, and this explains why she chose to keep it for the last chapter, although it was published 2 years before the last plays. Uko views the novel as an extensive session of counseling meant to improve youth socialization and skillfully analyzes the book to show its relevance in the author's oeuvre, which in sum Uko considered to be a bold attempt to demystify womanhood, while at the same time envision a new type of woman. Generous quotes from Onwueme's play allow her skill in bending the English language in conjunction with the structures of her mother tongue to show through. The book unearths her creative skills, in particular her bold experimentation with forms and technique, such as her use of dreams, flashbacks, and suspense, and her use of humor, sarcasm, ridicule, witty double entendre, and metaphors. Writing with an American audience in mind, the playwright nevertheless uses proverbs and local color, giving readers a flavor of the Nigerian multilingual situation, with a frequent use of slang expressions, street language, and the pidgin English she would have learnt at home in the Niger Delta. Uko also discusses Onwueme's depth, both to the oral tradition already mentioned and to other playwrights like Bertolt Brecht, Ngugi, Semben Usman, and Femi Oshofisan, especially their role in building others' people's theaters, largely didactic in purpose, and their identification with the oppressed and underrepresented through flexible use of language, imagery, and setting. The highlight of the book is undoubtedly Uko's face-to-face interview with Onwueme, supplemented by telephone conversations and emails covering the month of June to October 2003. This very complete and lively account sets the book apart, clarifying a lot of issues in Onwueme's own words, while introducing readers to a vibrant, passionate, and surprisingly traditional lady who fights for female education while taking her role as a wife and a mother very seriously. Considering that it is difficult to conceive of an identity for the African woman outside the context of marriage, and at a time when the new vibrant Nigerian market of self-publishing emerges, subverting current publishing hurdles, Onwueme considers herself as a world writer in search of an audience. Her wish is that Western scholars and critics will realize that Africa is moving fast, and that behind Achebe and Soyinka, many more writers, several of them female, are waiting to be recognized beyond the African literary scene. Uko's book certainly goes a long way in successfully promoting her works. So here again, a reminder, a book to read, a book to study.